A sailor drowns at sea, fish eat his body, bigger fish eat those fish, people on shore catch and eat the bigger fish. Now God raises the dead. Whose body gets their matter back? This isn't a modern atheist gotcha. Ancient Christians wrestled with this exact problem. The matter passes from body to body in an unbroken chain. Reassembly becomes impossible, right? And Paul's answer in 1 Corinthians 15 is not what most people assume. He doesn't say God reassembles the old body. He says you get an entirely different kind of body, one made of a substance most modern readers completely misunderstand. So how does Paul answer this? He doesn't try to solve the reassembly problem. He rejects the premise entirely. But first, the context. The Corinthian church isn't denying the afterlife. They're questioning specifically the resurrection of the body. Why would God bother with bodies? This was a live debate. Greeks generally saw the body as a prison for the soul. Death meant escape. Some believed in reincarnation. Others expected the soul to float free into the divine. Jews, by contrast, had developed a tradition of bodily resurrection, God restoring the whole person. Paul walks into this clash of worldviews and stakes out a position that surprises both sides. Paul's argument starts with a bold claim. Christ has been raised as the first fruits of those who have died. First fruits, the first portion of a harvest, offered as a sign that the rest is coming. Think of an apple tree. The first apple on the tree doesn't mean only one apple. It means harvest time has arrived. The rest of the crop follows the same pattern. This reframes everything. Most people treat Jesus' resurrection as a one-off miracle, something unique to the Son of God. Paul treats it as the opening act of a cosmic pattern. Christ's resurrection and the future resurrection of believers are the same kind of event. Same substance, same transformation. Christ goes first, everyone else follows at the end of time when death itself is destroyed and the kingdom is handed to God the Father. Someone in Corinth asks the obvious question, how are the dead raised? With what kind of body? Paul's answer is a seed analogy. You plant a seed in the ground, it dies. What comes up? A stalk, a flower, looks nothing like the seed. The plant is not the seed reassembled. The original material breaks down completely, but the plant is continuous with the seed. Something essential carries through even as the substance changes entirely. Paul maps this directly onto resurrection. What is sown is perishable, dishonorable, weak. What is raised is imperishable, glorious, powerful. Continuity without identity of substance. The old body isn't rebuilt. It's transformed into something new. But what kind of body? This is where Paul gets specific and where most translations lead us astray. Paul builds an elaborate taxonomy of bodies, a ladder from the lowest matter to the highest, and the resurrected body sits at the very top. Paul lists different kinds of flesh, human flesh, animal flesh, bird flesh, fish flesh. Each is distinct. Then he shifts upward. Earthly bodies have one kind of glory. Heavenly bodies have another. The sun has its glory, the moon another, the stars another. Each star differs from the next in glory. This isn't poetry. In ancient cosmology, celestial bodies were literal physical objects made of finer substance than anything on Earth. The sun wasn't a metaphor. It was a real body composed of the purest, most refined matter in the cosmos. Paul is building a spectrum from gross matter at the bottom to refined matter at the top. Fish, birds, animals, humans, then moon, stars, sun. And the resurrected body, it sits above them all. The finest substance, the highest glory. Now the crux of the argument, verse 44. Most English Bibles translate this as a physical body versus a spiritual body. That translation is deeply misleading. The Greek reads soma psychikon versus soma pneumatikon. Psychikon comes from psyche, meaning soul. It describes a body animated by ordinary life force. a soul-ish body. Pneumatikon comes from pneuma. And here is the key. In the ancient world, pneuma was not immaterial. Pneuma was the substance of wind and breath. It was what stars and celestial bodies were made of. Finer than flesh, yes, invisible to ordinary sight often, but still stuff, still material, real matter, just more refined than anything on earth. So when Paul says soma pneumatikon, he does not mean a ghost-like body or a spiritual body in the modern sense. He means a body composed of pneuma, the finest, most powerful substance in the cosmos, a pneuma-body, material but transformed. Paul removes all ambiguity in verse 50. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Read that again. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Paul is not describing a resuscitated corpse walking out of a tomb. He is describing a cosmic transformation, perishable matter exchanged for imperishable pneumatic substance. The old body doesn't get patched up, it gets replaced with something fundamentally different. And this happens collectively at the end of time, not individually at the moment of death. Paul envisions a single dramatic event. The trumpet sounds, the dead are raised imperishable, and the living are transformed. Everyone at once. Flesh becomes pneuma. So if Paul's resurrected body isn't a ghost and isn't a resuscitated corpse, what is it? It's a third option that most modern readers never consider. Resuscitation says the same body, same flesh and blood, gets up and walks. Paul rules this out explicitly. Disembodied soul says there's no body at all, just a spirit floating free. Paul rules this out too. He insists on the word soma, body, every time. Paul's position is transformation into a pneumatic body, real, material, but not flesh. A body made of the same refined substance as the stars, but with even greater glory. Not less physical than a flesh body, differently physical. More physical, if anything, in the ancient understanding. This reframing changes how we read the entire New Testament on resurrection. When Paul describes his own encounter with the risen Christ, a blinding light, a voice from heaven, that is an encounter with a pneumatic body, for Paul, that's no less real than touching flesh. It also explains why early Christians disagreed so sharply. The gospel writers later emphasized a tangible, fleshly risen Jesus who eats fish and invites touch. Paul emphasizes transformation. Both claim resurrection. They mean different things by it. Understanding pneuma as refined matter dissolves the false binary of literal physical resurrection versus mere metaphor. Paul offers a third option, real, material, but transformed. Next time you hear the phrase spiritual body, remember. For Paul, that's not a contradiction. It's a body made of the finest stuff in the cosmos,